Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi. I'm here to do a review of a recent Malayalam film that finally made its way to Chicago. It's called Parava, which means bird, and it is so steeped in this particular neighborhood of Kochi that is obsessed with pigeon racing. So that is a lot of what the film is about. It's written and directed by Soubin Shahir, who I know more as a character actor in films. He's been in so many of my favorite films, like he was in Parava, he was in Kamari Padam. Recently I reviewed Nigam Rasulam, and he had a part in that. He co-wrote the script with Munir Ali. But this is his directorial debut. He's known more as an actor. I was really impressed. It was a coming-of-age story with essentially two tracks. We have these two young teens, I guess they would be about 9th or 10th grade, so maybe 14 or 15, young teens. And the child actors that he got to play, Hasib and Ichapi, I thought were just so good, especially the young boy who played Ichapi. He was really something special. They have an intense, close, best friendship. They go through all sorts of things like first crush and one of the boys being held back a grade, and they actually, cry because they're not going to be together in school. That's how close-knit they are. And then the other track, the secondary track, is about a group of slightly older young men, just really barely out of their teens, I guess. And one of them is Shane, the older brother of Ichapi. And we see in present day that he is basically closed up in the house and maybe living on this balcony and not really speaking to other members of the family. And we don't know what is he depressed? What has happened? We don't know exactly what his story is. And then through some interesting directorial camera choices of following a cricket ball or following the flight of a bird, we go back into a backstory. And that is the part where Dulquer Salmaan has, I think it's less than a half an hour. It's more than a cameo. It's a very strong supporting role, but still, he is not one of the main characters of the film. But to me, it was so striking how much he commands the screen when he is on with all of these other actors. I mean, he just has such a screen presence to him. So he elevates it. And I would say his role is pivotal in the same way. It kind of reminded me of Madhavan and Rang de Basanti, where he was not one of the main characters per se, but yet what happens to him and his story affects all the other characters and fuels the choices that they make through the rest of the film. He is the leader of this older group of boys. And he was really good. He was really good. He also sang at least one of the songs on the soundtrack. The acting was all very good. Director Soubin Shahir actually chose to cast himself as the main villain. He is a drug addict thug character, kind of the leader of a drug addict gang, who is also, pivotal in the lives of both the young teens and these older boys. It's very much a coming of age for both groups. The Shane character, Shane Nigam, I think is the name of the actor. I had just recently seen him as the older brother of the female lead in Nigam Rasulam. And I think I have seen him in at least one other film, but this one he really got a chance to shine a little bit, and I thought he was particularly good. I mean, he has some real anguished scenes. The romances are all very of the crush variety. That's not the main thrust of the film. The main thrust of the film is really these intense friendships, and also just such a sense of place of this neighborhood and these young boys. And I mean, like, the opening scene is incredible. You see, how do you steal a fish? You steal a fish by filling your mouth with water and putting the fish in your mouth, and then riding your bike all the way across town, across the neighborhood, until you then spit it out in the fish tank that you wanted in. But that gave us a little path through this neighborhood. It's a Muslim community. Each person might have a bittersweet backstory to them, and everything affects everything else. So for instance, the younger brother, Echapi, gets in trouble. He does something, and he can't keep it a secret because the entire neighborhood knows who he is and knows how his father would typically react, and they're all crowding around the base of the stairs waiting to overhear what his punishment is going to be for this major infraction. And instead, his father says, well, you're not going to do that again, right? And the mother, after the young boy leaves, says, why did you let him off so easy? And he says, I don't want another son to not speak to me. And so then that gives us a clue as to how deep this rift is with this older son, and the father is trying not to repeat the same mistakes again. So I just found it such a fascinating sense of place. And there was a lot about the pigeon racing and beautiful cinematography of the birds in flight and close-ups of the birds and these young boys raising their prized pair of pigeons that they're going to race. My quibble is that I didn't really understand. It was assumed that what the goal of the pigeon racing is, and I really didn't know. Were they supposed to stay in flight for a long time or for a short time and return right away? I wish there had just been a few lines of dialogue to explain what the competition was all about. It was just assumed that you would know. Maybe there were lines that didn't make it into the subtitles. I don't know. But, not every line gets into the subtitles, but that was something that left me confused. And I talked to a young man, grew up in America, who saw the film the same time as I did, and he's like, it was confusing. I don't know if it's quite as accessible as maybe it could have been to an audience outside of Kerala. I mean, I don't even know if everyone in Kerala knows all of the rules of pigeon racing and what the boys in the film were trying to accomplish. This film is so loving to this neighborhood. I'm guessing that the director may have grown up in that area or someplace very close by, but he doesn't view it through rose-colored glasses, because he's showing the seedier side too. He's showing the effects of young men who are unemployed. He's showing drug use in the community and how that affects the community. There's casual sexual harassment of an employer to his female employee, and then that leads to a whole cascade of events too. So and how the pharmacist is in cahoots in some ways with the drug gang, and what that means to the community too, that he's perpetuating the problem. So I just found immersing myself in this world fascinating. Even things like the young boys do kite racing, and I had always wondered, how do they cut the string of the other kite? And they were showing making the glue, making the broken glass. I looked it up on Wikipedia afterwards because I was just fascinated with this whole process and seeing what these boys were doing to make their competitive kite. So it was really interesting. So it's not a perfect film, but I think it's a really interesting debut for this director. I'm going to be looking forward to more stories from him. And I really enjoyed these two young, especially the stories of these young teens. It was really, really, really good. And just the climax scene and Shane's story was particularly powerful, of what he had to do to reconnect with his father, and how that happened was particularly powerful to me. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you saw this Malayalam film in the theaters, you were lucky and you live in Kerala. It's been out for a while there, I know. So I hope you have further thoughts. Let me know, was it also confusing, or does everyone just know all the things that were confusing to me, like about pigeon racing and kite racing and all the rest of it? So love to know your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please share it. Press that like button and subscribe. And if you hit the bell, then you will get a notification for new videos from me, from Pardesi. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Pardesi YT.